What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about why I am getting Helldivers 2 next up on the docket, really, right? The year starts fast. There's a lot of games that come out at the end of January through the beginning of February, and this one is definitely a more under-the-radar one. You know, Tekken has that name. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, well, Yakuza franchise, right? It's got the name. You had Last of Us even, Prince of Persia, Persona, Suicide Squad. All of these games, like, there's some backing there. Helldivers, out of that list at least, I do believe would be at the lowest end in terms of recognizing it, right? The first game is very good, and I want to talk about the first game because I think it's very important to talk about the first when talking about this one because, to be real, this game feels like everything the first game was, with some quality of life kind of things and some improvements of smaller things like bullets will deflect off of enemies because of their coding, depending on which angle you shoot. And things like that. Like, that is pretty specific, and that is pretty cool, and that was not present, in the first game. I'm not saying it's literally beat for beat the first game, but it's everything you know about the first game, but changing it from top-down to third person. That is the biggest change. And I actually think with just that change, this game stands a pretty good chance of doing something. You think of the live service push, that Sony is doing. This game does, cost money at launch, but this is a game that's going to, hopefully evolve and add stuff as time goes on. And to be honest, of their live service push and the games coming, this is actually one I think I would support more than almost any others, primarily because the first game was so good. So if you're new, by the way, I didn't throw this out in the beginning. This is a series where I kind of just talk about what I'm feeling for a game, right? If I'm getting it, not getting it, or somewhere in between. And while it's packed in February, it's going to be a game, I think, that I'm going to be able to jump in and out of. And that's kind of what I expect from this game because, you got the long games of Infinite Wealth. And Suicide Squad I don't think is going to be that long, but it's going to be, meaty. Persona 3. Right after this, you got other games like Skull and Bones and Banishers and Final Fantasy at the end of the month. It is a month I honestly think of for everything. You want a live service third-person shooter? Here you go. You want a looter shooter in Suicide Squad? You want a massive, JRPG in Final Fantasy VII? There's just so many different kinds of games in the month of February. And again, this one I do think very much under the radar, maybe even with Banishers for, Don't Nod. But the gameplay of the first game is actually really good. So when the first game came out, I remember playing it, and I actually went back, and I have a third YouTube channel where I do retrospective stuff, on older games, and I thought, okay, well, Helldivers 2 is coming out, so let's do a video and let's play Helldivers 1 again. So I went back, this was a few months ago. There's not too many people playing it, a few hundred. Like, there is still definitely support. There's more support for this game than there is some games that are 1, 2, 3 years old, so I got to give it to them. And I think it's a pretty hardcore game. The difficulty spikes that are there with the different maps and different just difficulty levels in general are extremely challenging, but this is a strategic type of game. You want to customize yourself and have the classes that balance the other players. You have to you definitely want to work together. There's really something very special, I would say, about like seeing the reinforcements, like the tube or the drop or whatever coming down, and then a person gets out and it's another person online. It's a very cool, like, Starship Trooper-y kind of thing, and I enjoy the first game a lot. I actually forgot how fun it was, and again, strategic, difficult. And this is what I think a lot of these games need to kind of have, right? You need to have a hook. You need to have a loop of something that is addicting and fun, but there's complexity there. And again, like I said, how you customize yourself and the upgrades to the different things that you can throw out, right? Whether it's a turret or whether it's, whatever it is. And there's many options, like a supply drop, right? And you can level those things up or, whatever you want to do, playing it with other people and kind of balancing your build with their build. Different enemy types, different terrain. The shooting itself is pretty difficult. There's friendly fire. You can end up getting yourself screwed. You can call on missile drops on yourself. And I know that was actually a thing that they emphasized in Helldivers 2. Well, it's the same thing in the first game. You could misthrow your little beacon kind of device, and you guys could get smoked by your own, your own doing. So I think this game just has a really cool loop and a really cool, like, kind of grabbing thing to it. And like I said, the only main difference to me is switching between looking down on it to now being third person. Now, to be honest, I like looking down. I would have supported a Helldivers 2 if it was still the same type of game. But I will say, I think they looked at it, and I wonder, but I do assume they looked at it and they said, we do have something kind of special. We have something complex, but it's got the hook. It's a little bit like Starship Troopers. Like, there's an appetite for this kind of game. But, you know, the top-down thing maybe is holding us back. If we made this a third-person game, you are more into the action. I will say, watching any gameplay of Helldivers 2, that is what the change does. So you could say, well, what is the big change? It's that. But what is it actually, like, why would you do something like that? Well, from what I gather, it just makes you feel like you're there a little bit more. So when there's explosion and when there's monsters or, you know, bugs attacking you, the camera is literally closer to the person, and it's looking, you know, you're behind them versus on top. There's a little bit more of a urgency to it now. And I'm not saying like one genre. Like, I love top-down games, and there's many different kinds of top-down games. That's a great genre and a great type of game. This one, I think for the more kind of chaotic and, again, Starship Trooper kind of thing, first person, third person, more on the ground like, right? That I think works the best for something like this. So I personally think it's the right change. I regardless if it's the right or wrong, I see why they did it. I think they believe it's the right choice to do something like this, because I think already the core game, which very much looks almost untouched, I think it's a very strong product, and maybe they're just hoping that, you know, with the last game came out, I think maybe 2015, 2016. It was a while ago. New age, you know, more people playing games, live service being definitely a bigger thing. Not that I necessarily like it, but, you know, I think a game like this, if it hits the ground running, and by that I mean needs to have support at launch, not just from, and I mean this, I guess, two ways. Needs to have them supporting it at launch, constant new things, but also needs like a solid player base, which I will say, like, Helldivers 1 has a solid player. It's dwindled, you know, as the years have gone on, but it had a good solid core. So if this game starts out with just rock solid support of people playing it, I think it stands a pretty good chance. PlayStation and PC, like, I think that should help it out as well. Just open up the player pool a little bit more. I hope this game stands out. I hope this game stands a chance, you know, at making kind of a mark in this this genre. And like I said, the release, I mean, it could be a problem for me personally. Yeah, you know, February's packed, and some games are going to get the short end of the stick. And I think for a game like this, because of the game that it is, might help it for me personally, because it's a game, you know, I can play it one night, put in a couple hours, level up, grind, I guess, in that way a little bit, build my player, and then leave, come back, you know, 5-6 days later, do it again. You can play it daily, and I think that's actually probably what they want. But, like, for me, you know, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and you just stay, or I'll just stay as long as the game hooks me. While I'm balanced, like, what am I going to do with my other time, you might ask? Well, play the other games, right? So I'm looking forward to it, though. I think Helldivers 1 is a really good game. I just hope this game doesn't get overlooked. And I just hope, because of maybe PlayStation's kind of marketing power, and but yet again, I don't know, Final Fantasy comes out, you know, a few weeks later. A lot of PlayStation's marketing is going to be on that. We'll see how it does. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. I will be covering this game when it launches, so there'll definitely be videos on it. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next one.